There's an upper limit on how to get started in Logseq videos you can do, but I've been wanting to do this video for a long time, or I've conceptually thought about doing this, and I think it will add a little bit more flavor to someone who's coming in and doesn't really understand how things are fitting together. So at times it looks a little bit more like a school art project and not really like a YouTube tutorial, but I hope it will help someone, and that's really the benchmark for me putting out videos. The video quality or the audio quality unfortunately wasn't very good for this. I bought another cheap microphone that I could move around with and not have to worry about the shotgun mic above my head. And unfortunately the quality was pretty bad. I was also speaking into the floor and there's like reverb and the camera is doing funny things. But hey, hopefully it's helpful to someone, so please let me know if you are that person. This will probably be the last of basic introductory videos I do because, as I said, there really is an upper limit and they start to get a little bit dry and run their course. But if you're looking for other videos, I recently did a video for Francesco on the Keep Productive channel, so go have a look at that. And yeah, there's also the course, you know about that. This video is really just an introduction into the physical model, which shows how information flows from linking and indenting of blocks, and just also shows the difference between blocks and pages. There really is so much more that you can do. And once you've grasped the basics of this sort of information, it becomes more about how do I structure information effectively, how do I set up effective workflows, rather than understanding how the tool works. Hopefully this video gets you across the line, and yeah, that you can start using Logseq a bit more effectively. This is sort of a precursor to some more videos that I'm going to be doing, which are a little more complex, but yeah, enjoy it. So the way we're going to represent pages is with these large colored sheets. Now the blue page will represent a journal page, and any other colored page will just represent another page that I've created in my database. Now the key thing to think about here is that these pages are nodes. So that is the model that you should have in your head, that this is a node to which I add information. This is a node to which I add information. So the way to think about the blue pages or the journal pages is date-based nodes in your database. And Logseq creates these automatically. You can also create some for yourself. And then all the colored pages are the nodes that you create. So these are basically user-defined nodes. Now, the key thing about these pages is that it creates an actual text file in your Logseq folder, or in the folder that you specified for Logseq to look at on your computer. And that's the key difference between a page and a block. You actually get a file for any page that you create or any journal page that has any information on it. Now, the way that I've represented blocks in this exercise is as your little index card over here. And a block is a container of any information. And another way to think about a block is as a bullet point. So a bullet point goes on a page basically. So it's literally a dash and then a block. And that is the model for how it is created. And I'll look at it on the computer a little bit later, but this is just the physical representation. Okay, so removing these. When we enter Logseq, the first thing that we see is a blank journal page. So this is for yesterday, the 28th of September. And I'm just going to put this over here. And now I'm going to start entering information in blocks. So the first block that I'm going to enter here is this one here. Jane has an idea for telco project on how to reduce customer churn. So I literally just enter that right there in the date page or in the journal page. And that is my first block. And then I'm going to enter another block here, and it's not the same size, it's just in order to make everything fit. But this block has inbox on it. Now this is for future purposes, and I'll explain why. But I'm basically creating a little mini folder here of things that I want to remember. So inbox, and notice here that it's the same level of indentation. So on the left to right axis, if we could call it that. That is the inbox. And then underneath that, I've got another block, which is Jane. What do we need to deliver by when? And I'm going to indent that underneath inbox. So you can see here I've got a little bit of a gap from the left to right now. And then another one for Bobby. Where is the presentation that we discussed, Bobby? Cool. So those are things that I want to remember. But now this isn't very helpful for retrieving the information. And this is where I want to create pages or nodes by adding backlinks. So double square brackets adds a backlink and creates a page in Logseq. So how would I want to do this? If I look at this card over here, I would want to create a page for Jane. I might want to create a page for Telco project. And then I could also add another tag to this one, which is inbox, so that it's something that I remember when I want to think about Jane or the Telco project. I could also create one for an idea, but for this example, what I've done is I said, cool. Let's say Jane has an idea for the Telco project on how to reduce customer churn. So this is now going to create 3 pages in my database. It's going to create a Jane page. This page over here for Jane. The next page it's going to create is this Telco project page. So Telco project. And the final page that it's going to create is this inbox page. So that's going to go over here. Let me move all of these up a little bit. So these are now 3 additional nodes that are created in my database, all because I have added these backlinks. So the double square brackets creates the page, as does the hashtag. They both perform the same function in Logseq of creating a node by which you reference the information. So what does this mean? This means that this block over here is now going to show up on this page, and this page in a section called linked references. So each page will now get a linked references section and linked references and linked references. And this is the super important part, that now that same block will show up in all 3 pages. So here we go. In my Jane page, I get a linked references to this block over here. In my Telco project, I get a linked references to this block over here. And in my inbox page, I get a link references to this block over here. But now another detail that I also get access to is this showing where this block is coming from. So I can see that this block is coming from the page September 28th. Now that's a journal page, but it's still a page. So all 3 of these blocks show that it's coming from my journal page, September 28th. Now that's a super helpful detail because it shows where the information is. It also shows it in reverse order, but we'll get into that now. Okay, so what do I want to do now for the remainder of these blocks? Well, for this inbox, I'm simply going to replace that with a tag, inbox. So there we go, I get inbox, and then I can flip this over and I've got here Jane, what do we need to deliver by when? And Bobby, where is the presentation we discussed? Now for Bobby and for any other thing which has not got a page in this color schema, I've used this funny bluish purple. That's basically pointing to a page that's not in this example. So that's the color schema there. But all the other colors, Jane, Telco project, and inbox, correspond to these nodes over here. So what happens in my link references now is I get this inbox card over here, and that will show that it's also in September the 28th. And then I will get this block here for Jane. So Jane, what do we need to deliver by when? And I'll also get this card for Bobby, what do we need to deliver by when? All in my inbox. So now you can see I've got 3 things in my inbox. I've got Jane, that idea there, and I've got all of those ideas. So if I want to retrieve like all the things that are on my mind, I'll go to my inbox and I can then filter for any of this information. I also will get that information in my page for Jane. So it creates a block over there, and then indented underneath that, I will have this block here. So Jane, what do we need to deliver by when. So now this information on Jane, what do we need to deliver by when, is represented in 3 places. It's represented in the journal page, it's represented in my Jane page, and it's represented in my inbox page. And this makes the information super easy to retrieve and creates a very good track record. But now if you go to your Logseq database file or folder, you will see that you only have this September 28th file in your journals folder. But none of these files exist yet. This is because at the moment they are only nodes that have information pointing to them. They don't actually have any information inside of them. So only when I start entering information in the blocks on this actual page, not finding it in the linked references, will I create a file. So for instance, for this telco project, I might want to add some information here that is permanently retrievable in this page. So let me do that now. I'm going to enter some information into this telco project page. I've got here a block which says project overview, and I'm going to put that up there. And then underneath that, I'm going to say, what is the point of departure? So I'm going to nest that underneath here. So it's basically indented underneath project overview. And we'll look at the computer version of this later. So our first point from the project overview is that customer churn is 10% higher over the last 12 months. So I'm just going to nestle that underneath the point of departure, or indent that underneath the point of departure. And the second point is that average revenue per user is down 5% year on year. Okay, cool. So those are my 2 points under point of departure. Let me move this link references section down here. And then I have some key questions that I'm thinking about when answering or when approaching this project. So these are my key questions, or I've got a key questions block. So I'm going to put this here at the same level as the point of departure. And then I'm going to ask here, are our competitors seeing similar trends? And I'm going to put that there. And then, is there any correlation between customers who are churning and the average revenue per user, ARPU? Okay, cool. So these are now indented underneath these higher level blocks. And I'm going to show this in the computer version why I do this, but the outliner approach really allows you to structure information nicely. Okay, I'm also going to have a link to a fact base. I'm not going to show this in the physical model, but I'll show this on the computer model, the computer version. So that is at the highest level of project overview. And then I'm just going to add a section here for reminders, and I'll get to this a little bit later, but there we go. If I now went to my folder, I would have a telco project page with all of these blocks, or a telco project file, a markdown file, with all of these blocks available on that page. It's now a new day, and I open Logseq, and what happens, I get a new journal page. So this journal page is going to move down, and I'll show you why we do that later, just because of the way that Logseq represents it. And I get a brand new journal page, or dates node, one could think about it again. And what do I want to enter there? So I'm thinking about Jane again, and I'm thinking about this project. We need to review the customer's numbers. I'm thinking about Jane. So I'll just add the tags there. So we need to review the client's numbers, hashtag inbox, and then I'm adding the brackets there for Jane. So I'm just entering that as a block on this page. And lo and behold, I'm now in the link references section. Just going to move this down here. For September the 29th, I get a new page link over there, and then I can enter the block here. We need to review the client's numbers. Okay, cool. So now you can see I'm collecting a whole bunch of information that if I ever think about Jane or have a meeting with Jane, for instance, I can go and filter and discuss all of these things. Similarly, on the inbox side, I will get a September 29th page link, and I'm just going to shift this down over here. I get another block. We need to review the client's numbers for Jane. So I can find that piece of information in 3 different ways, which is really useful. The whole thing about Logseq is that it enables the effective retrieval or efficient retrieval of information in a way that allows you to create effective feedback loops. And that's really a key differentiator with these graph databases. Okay, so that's the first thing that I've done. But then I want to start writing about some random topic. Now, maybe I'm going to write an article about keys to a happy life. So let me just enter that there for now. And then I'm going to indent some information underneath that. The key to a happy life, and this is obviously satirical, is to make sure to be dictated by the external environment, notifications, your recommendations feed, etc. Never give yourself time to breathe. So I'm going to indent this underneath that keys to a happy life. And then underneath that, not in the keys to a happy life, but as a separate block, this is now a quote. If one only wished to be happy, this could be easily accomplished. But we wish to be happier than other people, and this is always difficult, for we believe others to be happier than they are. Great, so I'm just going to indent this, or I'm just going to put this at the same level on this page. It's just some random quote, some information, and I'm just dropping it in my journal because I don't need to create a page for that. And I'll show you why. Because I actually want to change this into an article now. So I create a page, or I just enter the brackets around it, if I can pick it up, and then I say, keys to a happy life. So now I'm creating that link on the whole block, basically. So you can see there that it doesn't need to be only or some text and then a link. The whole block can be a link in itself. So this keys to a happy life now gets its own page, and that comes up as this orange page, lo and behold. So keys to a happy life. And on my linked references section, because it will automatically get a linked reference, I'm going to put that there. I get this link which says September 28th, and then this block, keys to a happy life, now appears over there, and all the information that is nested underneath that block on this page over here will appear underneath the link references here. So make sure to be dictated by the external environment, etc., etc. That all appears there on this keys to a happy life. Okay, before I go and start writing a little bit more in this keys to a happy life, I'm just going to deal with this last block over here, which is this quote that I got. And I'm going to add 2 additional tags here. The one is quotes, so that I can find my quotes later on. And the other one is a tag to, good catch, happiness. Okay, it's upside down. But I'm just going to add them to that little block over there. So I then get a quote and happiness, so that I can now retrieve that block by going to either of these 2 pages, happiness or quotes. And again, I'll show you that when we get to the computer, but at the moment I don't have enough space for that whole model. So let me add some blocks here to this keys to happy life page. So wake up in the morning and immediately pour secondhand thoughts down my throat. At night, do the same. So that goes over there on my keys to happy life page. These are blocks that are getting entered into the pages. Then when you have free time, make sure to plug other people's conversations into your ears. So obviously referring to podcasts. And then even better if it's self-improvement, to make sure that any kernel of feeling that you are actually okay and worthy as you are disappears. Okay, so I'm going to enter that over there, that first block, and I might nest this or indent this block here underneath here. Okay, let's neaten this up a little bit over here because I've been moving all around it. Cool. So let me just summarize the basics before I move on a little bit more. So any information that is linked will appear on all the pages that is linked to. So this block over here is a container of information, and it is appearing on both the inbox page, underneath the link to the original date, so September 29th. Here we go, we need to review the client's numbers. And then also on Jane's page, September 29th, we need to review the client's numbers. So any block that has a link will appear in all those different nodes. And then any block that is nested underneath a block which is linked to a page will also appear in that node. And so that's a super important point. It's linking and then indentation, and that's how you retrieve information in these different places. So this block over here, make sure to be dictated by your external environment, will also appear over here at the bottom because it's nested underneath that block which is linked to this page. And again, I'm going to show this on the computer model. But now I'm going to show you that you can do a few more things using this linking and backlinking. And I also want to show what happens when you link between pages, because at the moment, we've only linked from the journal pages out to these different pages. But I could enter information anywhere. So hypothetically, and this is not a very good example, I'm working in my inbox page and then suddenly I start thinking about this article I'm writing, Keys to a Happy Life. And this is a thought that I had. Make sure to take yourself incredibly seriously. Now I can make it appear on this node over here by adding a backlink. And in this case, I'm adding a backlink using this hashtag and combination of square brackets. And this is if you have more words, or sorry, a multi-word phrase that you want to display as a tag. And again, it's doing the exact same thing. Great, so I put that over there in my inbox. And I'm doing this for a reason, and I'll show you later. And it's also going to appear here in my Keys for a Happy Life, now linked to the page inbox. So in my link references down here, I can put this page here, or this. Okay, we're running tight on space on this Keys to a Happy Life, but nonetheless. I can also link to my journal pages from any other page. So for this example here, in my reminders section of my telco project, I could just be working the page and think, oh, I must make sure to submit my paperwork. So and I'd add this with the reminder, and then I can add this link here to the date that I needed it to happen. Now, I only have a few of these cards, which is why I had to correct the little mistake that I made here. Ideally, I would have liked to point it to September 29, so that it would show up today. But let me just link it over here. So make sure to submit paperwork. And now, in this journal page over here, I will get a link references section. And that will then show a link to the telco project, and this block that I said, make sure to submit paperwork, will then show up as a reminder on this day over here. And that's super useful for your planning and retrieving information. Now, the last thing that I want to do is use a block reference. So this quote over here, if one only wished to be happy, etc., that feels like it could go into this Keys for a Happy Life. Now, I don't necessarily need to add the hashtag Keys to a Happy Life. I can do a block reference where this block will appear over there. And I'll show you how to do that. But that means that if I change this block at its source, it will change everywhere else that it appears in the database. So I copy this block reference and I paste it over here. And I'm just going to remove this here because it's indented underneath there. So let me just make some space there like that. And again, I'll show this on the computer. And I'm going to add this block reference over here so that I can use it in my article. Great, and it's got this nice piece of tinfoil to show that it is coming from somewhere else, and you'll see that Logseq displays this differently. So, leaving this as the physical model, let's jump into the computer and look how this all looks. Now, there obviously aren't all the colors and fanfare to make it as accessible, so I'll try and explain it slowly and draw the links. So I've now opened Logseq and this is what I met with. I met with September 29th journal page and September 28th journal page. So it shows me my journal pages in reverse chronological order. And that is what is meant by Logseq. It means sequence of logs. So these journal pages are just a log, or I'm keeping a log of all the things that are coming up in the day-to-day basis. And that's why I like to compare it to like an A5 journal where you can just go and have a look at your jottings down basically. And if I open up Logseq on the right of the screen, you can see there my journal pages on the left, September 28th and September 29th up there. Let's go have a look at Jane's page. So if I click on Jane's page, I should see these link references. Let me zoom in on Jane over here. And indeed, there's September 29th. We need to review the client's numbers. And September 28th, all the things that I said there for Jane on that page. And you can see there it's indented underneath that inbox for this last point here, and that's what I was illustrating here with that little indentation over there. Now Jane's page is empty. So if I go to my database, or the folder where my database is stored, and that's just on my desktop, let me open my demo graph here for you. So my demo graph is available over here on my desktop, and that's just the folder that Logseq is pointing to. Now if I open up on the left and I open up Logseq on the right, if I open up that pages folder and make it large, you'll see that there's only 4 files there. This contents one is an automatically created page by Logseq. This inbox one, I've entered some information in. The keys to happy life, I've entered some information in. And the telco project, I've also entered some information in. But this one here with Jane is empty because at the moment, it's just a node that I'm pointing to from my daily journal. There's no information in it. But if I start typing some information, Logseq will create a page there for Jane. So that's a very important point. When you start entering information in, that is when Logseq creates a page, but the node can both be the storehouse for information or just a place that I'm pointing to. I like to use it predominantly as a place that I'm pointing to. Let's have a look at another page. So I'm just going to open up Logseq fully here, and then I'm going to have a look at telco project. Now, these are the points that I was entering on. Let me open up on the right and go over here. These are the points that I was entering over here. So all of these points over here, you can see the indentation. So project overview, and then indented underneath that is points of departure, and then indented underneath that are those points over here. And this is the exact same structure that I've got here. Now, as I said, I was going to add some more information in the fact base. And in the fact base, I've just added a link to a report, and I've added the hashtags Deloitte and report over there. And the reason I've done that is so that I can very easily go and find this report later on, or I'm just thinking, oh, it was a Deloitte report. And I just say Deloitte, and boom, it will take me to this page or to this exact block, and I can go and click on that PDF. And if I open this up here, there we go. There's my resource immediately available for me. Okay, let me close this over here and just look at why I'm doing this in the telco project page. I could theoretically do this somewhere else, but it's nice to develop pages or these nodes with more information if they are going to be places that you need to come back to or refer to information. And then it's nice to not have things just like floating around the daily journal. But for most purposes, it's good to start in the daily journal. Now, the other benefit of this whole outline approach is that if I use this plugin, which is a mark map plugin, it says mind map mode there, I can very quickly go to level 2, for instance, or level 1, and there we go. I've got telco project, I've got a project overview, what's my fact base, what are my reminders, and you can do very nice structures like this. This is just a quick example, so it's not very useful perhaps, but if I go into project overview and I click over there, okay, what are my key questions that I need to ask? Are competitors seeing similar drops? Whatever, is there any correlation? Now you'd break this down a lot more, and you could make these nodes in and of themselves so that you can then orient your database around certain questions. There's so many different ways that you can do this. But what does this actually look like in the file? So this is an important thing. I should have maybe done this when I created the page for Jane. Let me open this up on the right, and then open up my pages on the left, and then go into my telco project. And that's going to open it up in VS Code, which is my standard markdown editor on my computer. And corresponding to this Logseq interface on the right is my markdown file on the left. And you can see there in this page, so it's a .md file, that is a page or a node. I have got all these blocks over here. And a block is just represented with a bullet point, which is a dash. And yeah, there's all the information contained there. And any place that there's a link, you'll see that the links come up either as the hashtags and the square brackets. And as I said, those two things perform the exact same function. So from this telco project page, I'm now going to go look at the graph view. And the graph view is very nice and visual. When you first start using Logseq, it's like, wow, this is so cool. But it's not really useful later on, although you can use some plugins to help you manipulate the information a little bit more, or like find the connections. But it is very helpful to understand how different things are linked in Logseq. So that's why I'm going to be using it. I want to first make note of these two page links over here. So Deloitte and report are links on this telco project page. So now if I go to the graph view, you're going to see that and if I scroll down, or I just move that across, it's hidden by my face. You can see here that Telco project has got these two lines, so lines to report and lines to Deloitte. So a page is a node, and a link, a backlink, is a connection. So those are the edges in your graph. And the other edge in my graph is this keys to happy life and inbox. And this is why, if I go back to this model over here, I did what I think is bad practice, and I entered this random block over here, which was keys to happy life. I created that link just for this example. So if I look here, this keys to happy life tag there links to this page over here, and that's the line that I'm seeing. And similarly, on that fact base, I've got a link there and a link there to Deloitte, basically, and reports. So those are the connections that I'm seeing. And this is a little bit confusing because you think there's so much information in my graph. Where is it all hidden? And if I go to my graph, back to this view over here, and I just go to this menu and I click on nodes, I can turn on journal pages there. And now I will see all the other nodes in my graph that are connected. So this is the spidery view. And if I now go back from this page to the physical model, what I'm seeing there, in addition to these nodes that are connected, is that I'm seeing that September 29th is connected to Jane, and it's connected to inbox, and that block there is connecting this page to that page, and this page here is connected there. So I'm getting this full spidery model over here. And I mean, on the physical model, it's very difficult to see, but when you look at Logseq, it's very easily interpreted. But yes, it is a little bit spidery, and this is where your filters come in handy. So one of the pages that I've discussed that I like to have is this inbox page. Now, there's lots of different ways of doing these things. Inbox is just something which I started, and I've actually modified it a little bit, but it's a good example nonetheless. When you start having lots of different blocks or lots of different entries in your database, particularly in your journals, you want to be able to go and find that information again. So I can use filters, and filters is this feature in linked references. So if I'm on the page, I go to my linked references section here, and in the top right of that section, I get this little filter here. And then I click on that filter and I can select who I want to see. So I think, okay, cool, I've got a meeting with Jane. I could go to Jane's page, or I could go to the inbox page and then filter by Jane. I could also use queries. As I say, many ways to do things. Cool, so these are the different blocks that come up with Jane. I could then go to, I don't want to see what I've got for Jane. I want to see what I've got for Bobby. And there we go. I could also find this information by just going to Bobby's page, and it's there in my linked references. I could hypothetically go to my Telco project page and see if I've got anything in my inbox there. So I filter, yes, I've got the inbox over there. So that's a way to filter your information across the spidery graph. So now let me open up a page in my right sidebar. So I'm going to say keys to a happy life, and there we go. I've got all these blocks that are coming in here. I can see the link references. I can see that which is coming up from my inbox. So in the same way that if I go to this view over here, on my keys to happy life, this is what I'm seeing. I can see all the different blocks at the same time. And this is really the game-changing feature. But now, the difference between an analog model is that I can very, very quickly go to Logseq and be like, okay, cool, this is a good point. I'm going to move this block. So I'm literally just going to click on it, drag and drop, and move it from there. And then I'm going to click on this block over here, and I'm going to say, I can do it from either this place here, or I can go from there, and I can just literally drag and drop, and I'm going to outdent that, so Shift Tab there. Okay, so I can now remove this hypothetically, and I can remove that, and then I can start reordering my blocks here on the right-hand side of the page. Let me make it a little bit bigger. So that's just Alt Shift Up, Alt Shift Down, reorganizing things nicely. The other thing that I wanted to show is this quote over here, which I can use as a block reference. So I can either go Alt click and drag it over there, or I can be inline, so have my cursor in there, say Control C, and copies the block reference you saw on the right, the top right there, and paste it over there. And then this block here, if I change it and I make it pretty, maybe I can make it like a markdown formatting, it will change that everywhere in my database. So very useful. Another cool thing is that you can actually have a block reference within a block. So I know who said this. I think his name was or I think the spelling was Montesquieu. Famously said, and then I could have that all in one block over there. Now what that's doing is it's creating an address for this block over here in that file, and it's just referencing that address with these brackets. So if I go to my September 29th file, you're going to see it's created an ID underneath that block. So let me quickly go do that. So I go demo graph, and I go to journals, and I go to September 29th. It's a bit small, but anyways. Logseq creates this ID, and then anywhere else that that block is referenced in my database uses that address. If I edit it over there, you can see that that address is the same as the address that was in the markdown file. And that is how block references work. So super neat feature. There really is a lot more that you can do. You can do block embeds, page embeds, structured in many different ways. And it really becomes a case of setting up workflows and structures for yourself that work. Now, this could be super confusing at first because you have absolutely no idea where to start. Like when you enter Logseq, if I say GH and TR, so closing the sidebars over here, like this is not a very helpful view. And when I start, I have no idea where to go. But what I can start doing is saying, okay, cool, this telco project over here, I'm going to need to come back to this. Let me favorite this page. Then I'll say there, right click on the menu and then say add to favorites. And now I have that telco project there that I can quickly access from this left-hand menu. So from a point of departure, it looks a little bit intimidating at first, but when you get the hang of it, it really starts to work. So I hope that was useful for you. I was jumping around a little bit there, trying to make sure that I covered the things that I've been scratching in my notes over here. It's a little bit jumpy, it's a little bit unstructured, but hopefully it helps you grasp the model of Logseq a little bit easier, and the program starts to feel a little bit more intuitive. There's a lot more that you can do, but I'm going to stop this here, and yeah, have a great day. Thanks so much for watching the video to the end. I really do appreciate your attention. If you'd like to support the channel in some way, have a look at Logseq Mastery, which is now available in two parts, tutorials and workflows and systems. Tutorials are specific to Logseq, but workflows and systems can be applied to other personal knowledge management software. You can also have a look at my Ko-fi page or the Linktree page for affiliate links. Thank you so much.